Everybody, James here. On Sunday, I attempted to talk about Revelation 12 to 14, and I've had some comments that I was way too rushed on what I said about chapter 14. So I thought it might be helpful to go through chapter 14 again, this time a lot more slowly. So if that's what you'd like me to do, please do listen to this video. It will help you if you have a Bible in front of you. And if you like it, if you find this helpful, please do let me know. I might do some more, but that will depend on you letting me know that you want them. So, Revelation 14. Now, as I said on Sunday, when you are looking at passages like this, which are full of symbols, that's S-Y-M-B-O-L-S, the best places to start are the bits where the language is clear. To us, it's in plain English. Of course, it would have been Greek in the original, but that's not the point. And also to find bits that remind us of other parts of the Bible. And we're now far enough in Revelation that it can also remind us of things that we've already seen in Revelation. So I'm going to start at verse 12. Where it says in my translation, here is a call for the endurance of the saints, those who keep the commandments of God and their faith in Jesus. So we're on a theme here that we've been on for quite a long time. The idea that life is going to get very tough for those who believe in Jesus. John said at the beginning that he's going to talk about events that are going to happen soon. And what these people are facing is persecution. The Roman Empire is asserting its strength against these people, as sadly empires still do today. So these people need to endure. They need to be patient. And the results of doing so are great. Now, how do they endure? Well, they are faithful to Jesus. And it says in this verse that they keep the commandments of God. Now, John's Gospel, Jesus tells us that his commandment is that we love one another. It's vital reading this to realize that John, who wrote this, assumes that we know what is in the Gospels, what is in the letters of Paul. This is not a beginner's text for people who are starting to find out about Jesus. It's a text for people who already know about him. So these people are to keep being faithful to Jesus. They are to keep loving as Jesus loved, despite all the pressure that is going to come their way. And the message that we've had again and again is that this is the way to victory. Keep faithful to Jesus. Keep obeying what he told us to do. Okay, let's start now at the beginning of the chapter. And I looked, and behold, on Mount Zion stood the Lamb, and with him 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. That was so much there that's referring back to what we've already seen in Revelation. Mount Zion, the site of the temple. The temple's a major theme in Revelation. The temple was about God's presence on the earth. It was about where you met him. It was about where his kingdom grew from. There is also here a slight reference to Psalm 2, which we did notice on Sunday. Psalm 2 that talks about God installing his king on Mount Zion, and this king ruling the nations. So we're back with Jesus here, and just to make that obvious, there is the reference to the Lamb. The Lamb is Jesus, the one who was slain, the one who has risen in victory, the one who will rule the nations. So, okay, you're facing persecution, but look here. And in the New Testament, the temple, that language is used to describe the people of God. God no longer dwelling in a physical building, but dwelling in his people, and his Father's name written on their foreheads. bit of a reference there to the mark of the beast. There are those who take their identity from the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is taking control. It is making you worship the emperor. It is making you say that he is Son of God. It's making you say that Caesar is Lord. But the people who are marked by Jesus, who found their identity in him, are in a completely different place, despite all the persecution and the pressures that they are under. So, as always in Revelation, this is about Jesus. This is about acknowledging that despite all appearances, Jesus is King. And I heard a voice from heaven like the roar of many waters and the sound of thunder, going back to an earlier vision of Jesus that John had. It then describes, we're back where we were several chapters ago. We're back with the worship of heaven. They're singing a new song, and we've already had some of the songs. But these people are now seeing Jesus in an even better light than they saw him before. And it says in verse 3 that no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who'd been redeemed from the earth. Now, we've already looked at this 144,000 earlier on. And I tried to stress then, as I stress now, numbers in Revelation are not meant to be taken literally. They are usually symbolical. And I believe that 144,000 stands for the complete people of God. They have been redeemed from the earth. Let's just look back to where they're first introduced. It's in Revelation chapter 7, and that immediately goes on to describe them also as a great multitude that nobody could number. People, it says, who have come out of the great trial, out of the great tribulation. So the people of God come out victorious. They learn a new song about Jesus. They're celebrating in new ways. Now in verse 4, it says they haven't defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. See, don't take it literally, folks. The kingdom of God is not just for people who've never had sex. No, virgin, again, there's a sort of resonance to other writings in the New Testament here. You may, of course, be thinking of Mary, the mother of Jesus, but also think about the way the Apostle Paul says, I promised you as pure virgins to Christ. In other words, he's saying what you are looking forward to is your full union with Jesus Christ. You're like somebody who is engaged or betrothed in that day. You are keeping yourself pure for the person that you are going to find union with. So these people keep themselves pure. Despite all the pressures that they are under, they stay faithful to Jesus. They follow his commandments. They follow the Lamb, it says, wherever he goes. Now, where did the Lamb go? Do you see where this is heading? The Lamb went to the cross. The Lamb was falsely accused. The Lamb was persecuted. Jesus, of course, we're talking about. He still today bears the marks of his crucifixion. So just as Jesus was prepared to go that way, so these people are too. So we're holding two things together. On the one hand, there is going to be persecution. There are going to be martyrs. We know from earlier that one person already has been martyred at least. John is expecting a whole load more. But these other people who are victorious, they are the ones who will be the conquerors, the victors, as we read earlier in Revelation. They've been redeemed from mankind as first fruits for God and the Lamb, and in their mouth no lie was found, for they are blameless. These people have stayed close to Jesus. They have obeyed Jesus. They have been the people who spoke the truth. And it says they are first fruits. And this is introducing an idea of harvest. In Old Testament times, there was a celebration of the first fruits. What God does for them, he will do for others as well. So that's the first section, verses 1 to 5. I hope that's helpful. Now, going into the next section, starting at verse 6, John sees another angel, and he has an eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on earth, to every nation and tribe and people and language. Now, that word gospel, I was brought up with the idea that the gospel was something for individuals. You know, you believe in Jesus, your sin is forgiven, and I'm not knocking that idea for 1 second. But the important thing to note here is that the word gospel was the language of the Roman Empire. Good news is literally what it means. When a new emperor took the throne, a gospel would be announced. So here is a gospel that says, here's the announcement, Jesus has taken the throne. That is what has happened in his death, his resurrection, and his ascension. Now see who this message is for. Every nation, every tribe, every language, every people. And the message comes, note this, in a loud voice. Fear God, give him glory, the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the springs of water. Fear God. Why fear God? Because this situation that the people were in, that the Roman Empire was taking control, was not going to last forever. Because the ultimate victory belongs to Jesus. Now, when it talks about judgment, what we are specifically talking about here is judgment on the empire. Now, if we just come into the present day today, there are empires in our world today. We in Britain are in the legacy of an empire, and many people are calling us, quite rightly, to struggle with the guilt of what we've done in the past. There are empires that are alive today. Empires control. Empires are greedy. Look at what is going on in our world today. Here's the message. Empires will be judged. This is a biblical message all the way through from the earliest days of empire. You know, think of the prophet Daniel talking to the empire of Babylon. He says, look, it's God who brings up rulers and brings them down again. And in verse 7 of Revelation 14, it's again stressed, as it often is in Revelation, God is the creator. God made this. God is the one who is working things out for his purpose. And a second angel says, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. Okay, we'll stop there for a second. Babylon, well, the ancient empire of Babylon had long ago fallen. But what has been happening in Revelation is that it's like all the empires are coming together in Rome. We saw on Sunday the way that Revelation takes a prophecy from the book of Daniel and takes the four evil empires and draws them all together into the Roman Empire. So although it says Babylon here, it's Rome that is immediately being talked about. Rome, the new, if you like, embodiment of the Babylonian Empire. And in an earlier verse, the empire was also called Sodom. It was also called Egypt. It was also called the place where the Lord was crucified. Jerusalem, then seen not as the site of the temple, of the presence of God, but of the crucifixion of Jesus, the death of God's Son. So all these empires have come together, and the message is they're going to fall. Babylon is great. Empire is great. It is powerful, but it's dead. It's coming down. And it says, she who made the nations drink the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality. Now that word passion is later translated as wrath. Just hold that thought, because we'll need it later. Now, the way that the word wine is used in Revelation, as it's used in some other places in Scripture, please don't be thinking about a pleasant drink at the pub or anything like that. What we're talking about is wine being used as a weapon. We're talking about people being intoxicated with alcohol. Think of someone who's drank far too much and is staggering down the road and is barely able to walk. That's the result of alcohol that is in view here. And what the Revelation is saying is that's what empires do to the nations. They reduce them to a point that they can barely walk. And again, sexual immorality here, remember what we said about virgins earlier. They are the opposite of those who believe in Jesus. Their lifestyles are way off what he wants. And then we have a third angel. If anyone worships the beast and its image and receives a mark on its forehead or on his hand, and I was saying on Sunday, think of what the Roman Empire was doing. He also will drink of the wine of God's wrath or passion, poured full strength into the cup of his anger. Anger, word there of a real strong emotion. God isn't just sitting back and looking at the empires of the world and saying, well, that's okay. No, he's furious. And just as Babylon gave out its wine to bring the nations to nothing, so God will now give his wine, which will bring down the empire. And this is described in vivid terms. Now, please remember that we are talking about symbols here. But he will be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. We'll see more about what that meant in practice later on in Revelation. The smoke of the torment goes up forever and ever. Perhaps that makes you remember what Jesus said about Jerusalem when Jerusalem was going to be destroyed. They've no rest day or night, those worshipping the beast in its image and whoever receives the mark of his name. Those who fall for the Roman Empire have no future. God is the ultimate victor. And then we have the verse that we started with, this call for endurance. So here is this group of people. They believe in Jesus. They believe in his death and resurrection. They believe that God has made him King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And the message is, hold on. It might not look as if you are winning, but the truth is you are going to win. And then another encouragement to those facing persecutions. I heard a voice from heaven saying, write this, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Blessed indeed, says the Spirit. Not too many references to the Spirit in Revelation, but that doesn't mean John doesn't believe in the Spirit. They may rest from their labours, for their deeds follow them. What they do is going to have impact. Now that isn't just blessed are those who die because of persecution, but it certainly includes them. Hang on, you're going to win. Jesus has already won his battle. You are going to win yours. Okay, and now into the third section of Revelation chapter 14 from verse 14. I looked and behold a white cloud, and seated on the cloud one like a son of man, with a golden crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. Daniel 7, one of Jesus's favourite passages. This is the one about the four monsters, the four beasts that symbolise four empires that are going to come down, and one like a son of man will approach God in heaven and be given the eternal kingdom. John has already reworked this. And this phrase, one like a son of man, is just such a key phrase. It represents in Daniel the people of God. They are given the eternal kingdom. And it was one of Jesus's favourite verses. At least we know that from 3 of the Gospels, that Jesus saw himself as the Son of Man, who was going to be seated at the right hand of God. So he doesn't just have a crown here, he has a sickle. So we're back to this idea of first fruits and harvest that we've already mentioned. Another angel came out of the temple, calling with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come, for the harvest of the earth is fully ripe. So he who sat on the cloud swung his sickle across the earth, and the earth was reaped. What's he talking about? Read on. Another angel came out of the temple in heaven. Note that, the temple, right from the presence of God. And he too had a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, the angel who has authority over the fire. And he called out with a loud voice to the one who had the sickle, put in your sickle and gather the clusters from the vine of the earth, for its grapes are ripe. Now, some people interpret this to be about the destruction of the empire, the destruction of Babylon. My view, and not everybody shares this, is that what we're actually talking about here is the harvest, the first fruits that have already been mentioned in this chapter. We are talking about the martyrs. Remember that the martyrs overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. The angel swung his sickle across the earth, gathered the grape harvest of the earth, and threw it in the great winepress of the wrath of God. And there's a vast flow of blood. I think I've already mentioned in this series that the juice of the grape was referred to as blood. They called it the blood of the grape, which meant there was an easy link between a winepress and blood flowing in their language. Now, the harvest here that God reaps, I believe, is the harvest of the blood of the martyrs. That just as Jesus' blood led to victory, so the blood of these people is going to lead to victory. It's their blood that's going to be poured out on the earth. Now, I'm stopping at the end of chapter 14. We will see what happens next. But the point here is that just as Jesus' blood was turned around by God into victory, and from that came a great flow. You might be thinking here of the communion service, Jesus saying, "This is my blood that's shed for you, drink it." So the blood of the martyrs is going to produce a great flow for the world. Well, that's it. Next time I'm preaching on this at Westdale, we'll take it up again at chapter 15. But may God help us today to be faithful to Jesus. If you have found this useful, please do let me know, and may the Lord bless you today.